right, so what theater you want to go to tonight? We got 61st and 3rd or 84th and Broadway.
Which one do you want to go to, Schmoopy?
You called me Schmoopy. You're Schmoopy.
You're Schmoopy.
You're Schmoopy.
All right, Schmoopies.
That is so funny.
Schmoopy. Well, that, of course, is from the still popular comedy Seinfeld. Some couples develop pet nicknames for each other, while others have them bestowed upon them.
Schmoopy.
Schmoopy. Well, with Valentine's Day on the horizon, we thought we'd take a look at some interesting couple nicknames over time.
Yeah, and joining us now is the appropriately named nickname guy, John Leaf. We're going to start out with some celebrity couple nicknames. It's so great to have you back.
Yeah, thanks for being
Hey,
here.
it's great to be back. There's a certain amount of irony having the single bachelor talking to a couple of ladies about Valentine's Day and couple nicknames, but, you know, I'll give it the old college try, right?
Hey,
I think it's
all we ask.
fantastic.
All right.
And I think just to establish, because we've had you on the show before, and we got
Right.
so much feedback and interest about nicknames, you're kind of a nickname expert, and it kind of happened to you sort of by chance. You just suddenly kind of started asking questions, right?
Right. Yeah, you know, the topic's one of those things that's incredibly niche in one way and very specific to an individual, and yet incredibly universal. And I think that's why you've had the kind of response that you've had, because it's something that resonates.
Yeah.
It's something that sticks. It's something that connects with people, absolutely.
Yeah, and right before we get into it, I want to say that you're interested in our viewers' nicknames as well, and especially couple nicknames. So if you have a couple nickname, you can go to our Facebook, write it out there, give a little story behind it, because John's going to be checking them out later. But let's talk about those couple nicknames, especially with celebrities, because they've been popular for a long time. Why is it such a big deal to give names like Bennifer and Brangelina?
And Tomcat.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. A lot of people don't know this, but going back to the 40s and 50s, Desi Arnaz was married to Lucille Ball, and they needed to start a studio, and they came up with Desilu. And,
Yep.
Right?
Oh,
Yep.
And it had the
okay.
heart with it and everything.
Yep.
So if you go way back, so, you know, they've been around for a long time. And they actually, interestingly enough, ended up naming their ranch that they retired to Desilu. So there's a certain portability to nicknames as well, but they go way back, absolutely.
Well, and a lot of people who then think, you know, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, or Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston, that they somehow created this. Your point is that it goes way back, a lot further than that couple or those couples.
Right. I mean, I was doing yoga last night, and I realized it's kind of like yoga. It's nothing new, but they sure have been around a long time.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
yoga is kind of, when something takes on kind of a new phase, or there's a new craze about something, it seems like, oh, we just invented yoga. It's a great example.
Right, yeah, it came to me last night doing yoga. But anyway, you know, really I think it's a couple of things. One is social media, and two is television. I mean, how interesting, frankly, would Jersey Shore be if it was about Sue and Bill?
Yeah, right.
Right? I mean, it's about the situation and Snooki, and, you know,
Yeah.
a big part of that show is really about nicknames, if you think about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
And then on the social media side, I mean, Google Plus just announced recently in the past couple of months that you could have nicknames. Facebook's had nicknames for a couple of years, and if you think about Twitter, right, I mean, it's a chance to be somebody else. I mean, I'm doing a little bit of research to find out how many Twitter names are actually the person's name as opposed to an alter ego. Or
But
somebody
I'm
they want to
real
be.
Molly Faye on Twitter.
Really? Well, there you go.
Yeah,
the
because there
real
was a
Molly
fake
Faye.
Molly Faye.
Yeah, right.
You know, but I think that brings up an interesting point, is who kind of gives the nicknames. Because I think when it comes to couples, a lot of times it's either the media, if it's a celebrity couple,
Right.
or sometimes it's your friends who aren't happy that you're spending so much time together. So it's not always a compliment that you're getting that nickname as a couple. Sometimes it is. But so who gives it? On Twitter, obviously, it can be yourself.
Right. No, you know, that's a great question. I mean, part of the fun about nicknames is that they're really living conversations. I mean, I'm much more adroit at giving nicknames than I am having them. And so it's a participatory thing, right? And so there's a certain sense of ownership for the person that's actually giving the nickname. So often the emphasis is on the person that has the nickname. But, you know, there's a backstory to the people that actually gave them. And I've met a lot of people and talked to a lot of people on this project that said, you know what, I don't have any nicknames, but I love giving them. And so when you get back to the celebrities, yeah, I mean, I think the media is pretty quick to jump on that bandwagon.
Yeah.
But it kind of connects them in a way. And so, you know, you don't think of them as separate people, but really as a couple.
Yeah.
And that works for people.
And the name links them. Let's
Right.
talk about Katy Perry.
Yeah.
Because this is actually a relative of yours, kind of a
Right.
distant relative.
Right. Yeah, this is a wonderful story. My sister, a couple of months ago, who obviously knows all about the Nickname Project, went to a wedding in the Carolinas, and it was my nephew's sister-in-law that got married. And I know Katie, I've met her a couple of times, real nice person. I said to my sister, hey, how was the wedding? She said, oh, it was great. Anybody faint? No, that's the first question I always ask.
Did anybody faint?
Right. But anyway, I said, well, tell me a little bit about the groom. I really like Katie, but, you know, tell me a little bit about him. She said, well, he's a really nice guy. And then she got a big smile on her face because she knows about the nickname thing. And I said, what? And she goes, his first name's Perry. I'm like, oh, my God.
Katy Perry.
Yeah, Katy Perry. I mean, it's just a giggle. You know, you can't make that stuff up. And so there's this couple down there that's Katy Perry, right? So I would love to find out if there's anybody in the viewing audience. Is there another Katy Perry out there?
Yeah.
You know, in Waukesha or Mukwonago or wherever, right?
What's the deal with the butcher paper nicknames? Because we have a picture of that too, and there are a whole bunch of names on this.
From Cedarburg.
Yeah, right. So the backstory on that quickly is I had a booth up at Harvest Fest in the fall at Cedarburg, and I was giving away T-shirts and coffee mugs and trying to do some man-on-the-street things and collect more nicknames in person, right? So a good friend of mine said, well, you know what you ought to do when you have your table out is lay out a piece of butcher paper and throw it on a couple of Sharpies and let people write down their nickname, and then you can kind of engage them that way. So it was great. I mean, these little kids came up to me and, you know, they were like, can I sign this? You know, like they were signing the Monroe Doctrine or something, you know, or the Declaration of Independence. But I'm like, yeah, no problem. Well, anyway, this couple comes up to me, and you could tell they were really in love, or at least I thought so. I mean, they were holding hands and probably middle-aged and seemed to have a good relationship. And the woman comes up to me and says, do you have many couple nicknames? And I said, well, yeah, I have a few, but what do you got? And she goes, my husband's name is Tom. I'm like, okay. And my name's Molly, so we're Tamale.
I love it.
So I'm like, are you going to be at the comedy club both nights, you know? But anyway,
that's great.
Well, it really was. I mean, you could tell that it meant the world to them.
Yes.
And is it like, you know, the tamales when you're having Mexican food, or is it the candies, you know? And we had a good giggle about it. But, you know, you could tell that it was really a point of connection. And when couples talked about calling them, hey, let's call Tamale and see if they want to come over.
I love it.
it.
That's great. And here's how you can find the nickname guy. The website is, again, nicknamestories.com. You can follow him on Twitter at the nickname guy. That's where you can find him. And go to our Facebook page and tell him your story about how you got a name as a couple together. He'd love to hear that as well. Thanks for being here, John.
So it was a
Great.
blast talking to you. Thanks, John.
Let's do it again.